Hi guys, Darth Sidious here, back on the Star Wars The Black Series action figure review. Today, taking a look at the brand new Star Wars The Revenge of the Sith Darth Sidious figure, which has probably been maybe my most anticipated Black Series figure of the year so far to come out. Probably. When this was announced, I was really excited. This is a version of Palpatine, or Darth Sidious, or whatever, that I've wanted them to make in the Black Series for a very long time now. And they finally made it. And yeah, I was actually surprised to get it so early. I think it only went up for pre-order like almost maybe just close to 2 months ago. So the turnaround time on that is pretty impressive. I had mine pre-order with GameStop Canada, and I was surprised to get the shipping notification the other day, and it arrived today. But first, take a look at the figure in the packaging. Kind of a rare thing for me because usually I don't get multiples. I actually got two of this guy, and I actually think I'm going to open them both so I can display them in different ways. But yeah, here he's in the packaging. Looks pretty good. I really love the artwork there with the Chancellor's office in the background. Really cool image of Darth Sidious there. And funny enough, this is the first Revenge of the Sith figure when utilizing this packaging. We got Revenge of the Sith, Darth Sidious, and it's #1. That's kind of funny. You'd think they would have made more Revenge of the Sith figures by now, but they are using this packaging, at least since they've been using this packaging, but they haven't been. Got a pretty brief write-up. You know, if you're a Star Wars fan, you pretty much know what's going on with this guy. He's the main baddie. But pretty much it. So I'm going to take this away and take a look at the actual figure. And this guy is pretty cool. Not without some things to note at the very least, but overall I'm very happy. I really like this look for Darth Sidious. I'm always happy to get new versions of him, and it's super awesome to get a prequel version of the character. Because so far we've only had releases of the Return of the Jedi original trilogy, Emperor Palpatine. So if I get my light in here, taking a look at the head sculpt, it looks really good. The hood is a sculpted plastic piece, and it is actually glued to the torso. I don't think it's glued to the head sculpt, but it's glued to the torso. You can't remove it, which I'm personally fine with, because if this was a loose piece, it would just flop all over the place whenever you're trying to mess with it. And while it does hinder articulation a fair bit in the head, I don't mind, because the flopping around of the plastic hood just get really annoying. I do like that they went with the plastic hood. You know, they could have went with soft goods, but I just find at this scale, the hoods rarely sit on the figure's heads correctly. And for Darth Sidious, his hood really does shroud his face in and lay a very specific way. That's, I think, very hard to capture with soft goods and better to do with plastic. So I'm glad I went with the plastic. But the face print looks real nice and the sculpt really good. He's kind of got that scheming Palpatine smile on the go. I'm kind of glad they didn't go with a full-on cackling head sculpt. It's a bit too action-oriented, where it only kind of works for like action poses, but this can work for action poses. It can work for just him standing around doing whatever. And it's a little hard to see, but he does have the Sith eyes printed there. They're very cleanly applied. If I can, yeah, there we go. And he's got the shading around the sunken in eyes, and then shading on the face itself to bring out the details of the sculpt of all those wrinkles and dark side damage or whatever. You got a nice little gold painted pin there for the hood. It's a little messy, not too bad. And he's got a new sculpted bit here for the collar piece. I can't tell if the torso is reuse with a new overlay or if it's just a whole new torso. I feel like this might be a neck overlay or like an upper torso overlay with a reuse of the first Palpatine. As you can tell, the rest of the figure uses an entirely soft goods robe, which I think actually looks pretty good. Sometimes plastic hoods and robes don't meld well together, but I think it works pretty well here. You've got the black little, I don't even know what you call this, little torso piece, I guess, which I think looks pretty nice. And then you've got like the poofy sleeves that actually do have the different color collars, collar cuffs, which is nice. The robe itself, pretty good. It's got some nice stitching here on the middle. The arms are a reuse of the Return of the Jedi Emperor Palpatine. You can tell because of the double hinges that are used in the elbows, as well as the reuse of the hands. But I think that's perfectly fine because you get double hinge elbows and you don't need to worry about pins because you got the robe, so you got a lot of range of movement there. And then the hands work fine. You got the gripping hand, and you've got the pointing finger hand, which I think is always a nice kind of gesturing hand to have for a Palpatine or a Darth Sidious in this case. Not much else to talk about really. It's a lot of just soft goods, but I like the color a lot. It looks real good. And if you pull up his skirts, not to be too dirty here. I do think, I think his legs are new sculpt. I could be wrong. The boots look very much like the wraps of the Farm Boy Luke, actually. But I think they might be new. Could be wrong with that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he also has a new lower waist piece with this lower tunic bit with this sculpted like sash. So like I said, it's hard to show because um, the robe isn't removable unless you want to tear off the hood, and then you could, but I don't really want to do that. But yeah, I think that's all new. And actually, now I'm looking at it, I think that the torso is new as well. I don't think it's the same as or I know it's not the same as the Palpatine. I guess it could be reused from another character, but I think it's new. But again, correct me if I'm wrong on that. So quite a bit of new, and any bit of reuse that is there works perfectly fine. In terms of articulation, you do have a dumbbell joint at the neck, but like I said, because of the glued-on plastic hood, you're not going to get a ton of movement out of that. You can't really look up. You can get him to look down a bit. You can rotate the head to the side a decent amount, but you've rotated too far, it starts to look a little goofy. But he does actually have the hair sculpted and painted back there, you can tell. You do have hinges at the shoulders that move pretty good. They do rotate. Double hinges at the elbows, like I said, and you do have a rotation. Oh. You know what? There isn't a double hinge. I thought the arms could still be reused, but I think the arms are not the double hinge arms of the Palpatine. I'm feeling underneath the robe. They are, because they rotate at the elbow. It's actually a single hinge joint, but they are really deep. You know, you can get them bending really far. You get the swivels at the wrist with the up and down hinge for his saber holding hand, which is great. And it's actually also the same on the pointing hand as well, which I think is fine. There's a torso joint. He does arch back a bit. Crunches forward, not very much, which is pretty classic for Black Series. There is a rotation there, though. And actually has a decent amount of pivot in the torso as well, which is kind of interesting. And then you have your, we can lift up the skirt again. You have hip joints. You can kick them decently far. You can get quite a spread. There's a swivel cut there at the thigh, single hinge at the knee, which goes slightly past 90 and then rotates. And you have hinges at the ankles that you can get to go up if you can get the foot over the sculpt of the wraps there. Just a bit though. Goes down a fair amount, and there's rocker for pivot, and he has peg holes above his feet as well. Yeah, pretty good articulation. You're definitely gonna be able to get this guy in a lot of the poses that you're gonna want to get out of him. In terms of accessories, decent array of accessories. This is the first time we've gotten a Palpatine with his lightsaber, because this is the only film in which he actually utilizes the saber. Very nice new sculpt, very nice vibrant red blade. You can remove the blade from the hilt if you like. The hilt is sculpted nicely, but I do have a bit of complaint with the paint. So first of all, it's missing a ton of gold paint. You're supposed to have gold like all around this sculpted detail here. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, I guess, but I'm pretty sure not just this and this is supposed to be gold, but like a good chunk of this sculpted detail is all supposed to be gold. They omitted it. I don't know why. It's not great. Also, the hilt itself is molded in this like silvery gray plastic that doesn't look so good. I wish they would have just painted it silver and then painted the gold on it. It would have looked a lot better. The hilt does look a little cheap. I hate to say it. It's not terrible, but there's a lot of detail missing there with the paint. So it is a complaint I have. But he does have the gripping hand, and he does grip it perfectly good. He can pose around doing all crazy stuff. Looks good. Pretty happy with that. Very nice to get a Darth Sidious with his lightsaber. He also comes with a couple of reuse accessories, being the lightning hands that came with the Return of the Jedi Deluxe Palpatine with the throne that's getting reissued. And or at least as far as I know, I'm pretty sure they look exactly the same. I didn't double check, but I'm pretty sure they look exactly the same. But you do have obviously different paint, and they are cast in a much more vibrant blue translucent plastic, which I actually think looks a lot better, a lot more noticeable, I guess. Looks very nice though. That's easy enough to swap. Well, I'm just gonna say it's easy enough to swap. I haven't actually tried it yet. That hand is actually a bit tighter than I would like it to be, but not too bad. Pop that in, and we'll pop the other one in too. Why not? Boom. So you can get him with his lightning and let me get him an actual good pose, or acceptable pose anyways. There you go. You can have Palpatine there with his lightning hands, and that looks super awesome. Always a fan of Palpatine Sidious's coming with his lightning, because that is definitely his trademark, of course. Yeah, looks great. Very happy with that. And I'm happy with the accessories overall. I can't really think of much else this figure could have came with. Alternate head with a different portrait or expression would have been real nice, but with the way the hood and the head work and all that, and just knowing Black Series and the way they do accessories and whatnot, that's not really expected. But yeah, pretty happy. But not too much else to talk about, except I guess some comparisons. I'm going to get the lightning hands off of him for that, just because it'd be easier, and then we'll take a look. All right, I got the hand swapped, so now let's take a look at a few quick comparisons. Obviously, the main one here is the only other Palpatine that we have in the Black Series. This is the throne room or throne set. Palpatine, you'll have to excuse, he might be a little dirty. He's been sitting on the, or dusty, he's been sitting on the throne on my shelf for a while now. But you can see how those guys look together. Look pretty good. You can see the dude reused the same hands. Let me take a look at the head sculpts, actually. Both are pretty good. I will say, I think the shape of the face and the printing is definitely a bit better on the new one. I think the printing's a lot cleaner. And I think the sculpt and just yeah, like I said, the shape of his face and his head, I think just looks a bit better. This head almost looks a little too narrow. They also went pretty heavy on the wash for his face as well, which in some ways looks a little too much. This one I think is a lot better. They're still good, but yeah, but you can kind of see what I'm saying with the soft goods hood. The soft goods hood here isn't bad, but it just doesn't sit the way it's supposed to. So yeah, there's trade-offs. This one can pose its head more, but the hood doesn't look nearly as good. And honestly, I prefer the hood looking better in this instance. But that's kind of up to you kind of thing. Here he is with, I don't have the Black Series Anakin. I'm hoping they redo that one. And they have not made a Return or Revenge of the Sith Yoda. I hope that's another figure they eventually do, because it would go great with this guy. But here is the Shock Trooper from the Bad Batch. And you see how they look. I do like that Palpatine is a little shorter. He is not like a super tall guy, so him being a little shorter, sorry, than like an average 6-inch scale figure, I think works pretty good. And then for fun, here he is with the old vintage collection 3 3/4 inch Revenge of the Sith Darth Sidious. Again, you'll have to excuse me, he's a little dusty. He's been sitting on the shelf for a while. But yeah, you can see kind of they went similar directions with giving him the hood and whatnot. Both good. Like this old 3 1/4 inch is going like what, 14 years now. Still a really good figure, honestly. I still really like this figure a lot. They did go with the more maniacal, laughing head sculpt here, and this is pretty face print, but still looks pretty good. But they did go with the plastic hood with this one again, which again I prefer. You can definitely see the color difference though. This one is like a darker, like brownish, where this one's more reddish, which I think is definitely more accurate. I also like the little black piece on this one better than on this one. This one, they went like a, almost looks like he's wearing like a fur coat or something. Like it's a little weird, but yeah, still both really good. I will say the Black Series one is definitely the superior figure though. It articulates better. It looks more accurate. The soft goods are better executed. But they're two different scales from two completely different time periods, so there's obviously going to be improvements or differences, of course. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, it's not actually a whole lot to talk about because he's covered in all the soft goods robes. But overall, it's an excellent figure. One I'm pretty happy with overall. Is it perfect? No. But if you are a Black Series collector, and definitely if you're a fan of the prequels, then, I mean, this is a must-buy. It's definitely probably my favorite. Definitely my favorite. It's the Black Series figure release of the year so far. I'll be honest, Black Series has been kind of lackluster for me this year so far. It feels like releases have been slow, and even the releases that have come out, not a ton of them have been that interesting to me. We'll see if that changes. But yeah, really great. Highly recommend. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video. May the Force be with you.